All right, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by another episode of Real Estate Titans, sponsored by Lionbolt Media. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top professionals in our field, essentially gathering insight, inspiration, what really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else in what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Now, our very special guest and feature titan for episode 297 from beautiful Raleigh, North Carolina, none other than Erica Sizemore. Erica, thank you so much for taking the time. It's an honor and a pleasure today.
Honor's mine. Thank you, Greg.
Oh, this is incredible. And before we went diving into this episode and hit the record button for everybody to tune in, Erica and I were just chatting about, how people get connected. And we have a mutual acquaintance here. So you know who you are. I might not mention your name, but I'll probably reach out to you after. Thank you so much for connecting me with Erica. I know this is going to be an incredible episode. So, Erica, if you're all right with it, let's just dive into the series of questions. Let
Sure.
everybody know who you are, your journey, your story, your passions, and kind of what leads you up today. So the first question is your origin story. It's kind of the hero story behind it. So anybody who doesn't know you yet, or the ones
Yeah.
that already do and love you, let's just kind of talk about who you are,
Yep.
where you came from, what got you into the business, and kind of what led you up to today. Let's just kind of go through the details.
It's actually some of the best stuff, and it plays well into what I do for clients and with others in the business, and really what I like to project. So it's really well positioned to intro.
Love it.
So I can go back to when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
There's always the good stories when you're a kid. I had parents that loved to do stuff to the house. I laid tile with them, but I loved houses and I draw them for hours. I thought I wanted to be an architect. We'd break into houses that were being built in our neighborhood just to see them,
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
check it out. But I never was going to be an architect, and instead I went into communications. And I worked for a real estate company on the back end, on the
Okay.
marketing side.
Get
So
out of
that was kind
here.
of fun because I could see it. But I got recruited to finance later for marketing. And,
Okay.
that's a big switch. Like I
Yeah.
go from, yeah, I'm going to design houses and I'm going to design newsletters. And then now all of a sudden I'm working with wealth management and I'm working with financial clients. And
Wow.
someone saw something in me and it was amazing. And I spent, I'll call it this, it was the second career in
Okay.
wealth management for 12 years.
Wow.
And I was so impassioned by this. I'm a big dork, okay?
Yeah, I love it. I want to hear
uh,
it.
Spreadsheets and analyzing real liability on real assets, real estate. I mean, because look, I loved houses when I was a kid,
So good.
and so my husband said to me one day, he said, "You're," and he was in the business too. He
Okay.
said, "You're doing a lot of advising on real estate, and you don't have a license, Erica. Shame on you." I mean, even though I had a bunch of other licenses, right?
Sure.
And so I went and got my real estate license. I studied at 4 in the morning every day before full days of work and raising
Wow.
kids and all that stuff,
Hmm.
and got my real estate license just to be able to be credible, right? Not even to sell real estate, everybody. Like
Unreal.
zero was my plan to sell real estate. And I went to our office and needed to hang my license somewhere, right? You get licensed, you get your number, you're ready to put it somewhere, and all I was going to do is hang it.
Okay. Yep.
And my office, at which in the wealth management world, you need lots of, liability, red tape. They want everything to be it's highly regulated.
Sure.
And they said, yeah, well, great for you for getting licensed, but we don't like that. You
Ooh.
have to pick. Do you want to stay doing this or do you want to pursue that? And it took
Interesting.
like a lot of self-reflecting and as a
Okay.
household reflecting and what
Hmm.
I wanted to do and why I wanted to do it. My husband said, "This is your passion. You love this for whatever reason. He doesn't understand it." And he said, "Go for it." And that was almost 7 years ago.
Oh my
And it's
gosh.
been just a bullet,
Hmm.
from there, gunshot of just changing all the career direction and focus. But the amazing thing, Greg, is it's
Yeah.
not that different. How you
Okay.
advise someone in one respect can be so similar in another when it comes to money, wealth. This is the biggest asset they have in most cases, where they have so much money sunk in their investment, in their portfolio. So we're just changing it one asset class, not 25. And, I'm just focused on that. And how we approach clients and speak to them is very, very similar. And it's the thing I get the most excited about when someone wants me to dig into not just the real estate, but how it impacts their big picture wealth planning. So that's really what it was. And it's hard. You just think through all the little breadcrumbs along the, golden road, and that's how
Mhm.
it ended up there. And now this is
Wow.
my third career, let's call it, and can't imagine doing anything else. And I'm sure it'll wear me out one day, and that's going to be the last thing I do.
No,
So
no.
yeah, that's
Erica,
it.
I love that intro. And again, the attention to detail is so beautiful because it lays the foundation.
Yeah.
Going back at a very young age. And, I think there's a lot of people, not that everyone's breaking into homes and things like that, but
Yeah, I
I
mean,
resonate.
it was like
It's,
little kid breaking in.
yes, yes,
You
yes.
really just weren't supposed to be there. I wasn't breaking laws or
My
anything.
brothers and I did the same thing. And so that's what I mean. I know there's so many people that did the same thing where there was houses popping up and you were curious about the construction and all
Yeah,
tools and all the different things that were happening. So that's so cool that you would mention that.
yeah,
And from your now third portion of the career, the prior two, it's such a melding of incredible skill sets from marketing to advertising and then to wealth management and financial planning. I mean, all of that directly connects and impacts real estate in such a big way. So it's just stacking levels of knowledge and experience into what you do now, which is amazing.
yeah.
And I'm sure that your clients and everybody that's in your ecosystem feels and understands that importance, just on a regular basis. And obviously, your record and all your awards and accolades speak for themselves. So it's just incredible the heights that you have been able to accomplish in the 7+ year time frame so far. And gosh, Erica, you're not even at that spot yet. I mean, there's so much more to go, and you've already done so much, which is amazing.
Thank
And
you.
I want to dive into kind of the thought process to take you back into that. So you had that ultimatum of staying in the financial, division, wealth management with all the different series. I mean, I saw online series 6, 66, 31. Like, I mean, 12 years being in that space.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind before you made the leap into
Yeah.
real estate? I want to dive into that because I know there's lots of people that are experiencing that or have in the past.
So, some of my friends said, why didn't you do it sooner? At that when they saw the trajectory initially, as I said, this made so much sense for you. Why didn't you do it sooner?
Mhm.
I wouldn't go back and do it any differently just to say that. I
Yeah.
don't think I would be as adept
Mhm.
at doing certain things, and improving people's lives in the way that I can if that wasn't part of the journey, right?
Yeah.
So that's first thing. When thinking about it and reflecting, it was very challenging for the idea that I couldn't operate in a place that I had already established a level of confidence. Like that was very unnerving.
Mm.
For those out there that might be trying to get into the business, I was very well positioned in my home to be able to do that. I mean, it is
Okay.
a jump, it is a
Yeah.
big leap. Financially, it is a challenge. I don't think we talk about it enough, the
Mhm.
amount of failure rate in that industry. There's a huge financial services failure rate. There's a lot of these roles that they look great on paper. You think everybody's success, but I mean, it's a cut cream of the crop sort of
Mhm.
chopping up of the top,
Yeah.
and you have to be prepared for that like dry period,
Mhm.
right? Where you don't feel needed. You don't have people clamor. I hated that, the
Oh,
transition. I hated that, not
oh
feeling
yeah.
like I had 100,000 things to do on my plate every morning.
Oh,
But I was okay with it because the relationships I had could still be the relationships I had. And that's where you build some business. My business doesn't predominantly come from where I lived before, lived the space I lived in before.
mhm.
There's a lot of reasons for that.
Yeah.
I probably have a client a year that knew me through there.
Okay.
But it's all those little things that I took away from it. And I was at a point in my business, like
Mhm.
my individual as a person business, where I
Yeah.
said, I'm ready to take on a new challenge too.
Ooh.
So I think that's a really important distinction, that you have to be financially prepared, also mentally prepared for it. It
Mhm.
still feels strange at first. It's like a semi-retirement of sorts, if you're
Wow.
coming from somewhere else. So
Mhm. I think that that's huge reflection for anybody who's tuning into this is that I don't think there's ever a perfect time. or the right time per se. Yes, you can plan and you can strategize and you can have reserves and all the different things, but it is a leap of faith, or kind of taking that next step into a career path. Very few professionals at the very beginning of their life said, when I grow up, I'm going to be a real estate professional. So most of the real estate professionals, it's their second, third, fourth
Exactly.
spot, right?
Exactly.
So it's to me, I think it's crucially important for everybody to hear somebody of your expertise and caliber and knowledge, and what you've accomplished, Erica, is incredible. But you didn't start with that, right? So it
Mhm.
takes the first believing in yourself and then doing the activities that are going to yield the results and then ultimately be consistent.
Right.
So it's beautiful to hear it. It's inspiring for anybody who's in that space, and hopefully, if they're listening, they see you and they hear you do this, and who knows what the next people are going to come in through this. So I love that.
I'll throw
Um,
something else in, Greg, that I
yeah.
found just on that same note of like, you be confident and capable in what you're confident and capable, and bring who you are into what you do if you're doing this role or any other kind of entrepreneurial venture, right?
Mhm.
Within the first so many months of the being in the industry, I did two things that I think was a head turner.
Okay.
One was I invested a very large sum of money into the right coach.
Oh.
And usually you think I don't need a coach. I'm just figuring out the business, right? I just don't even know what I don't know. I got a TC right away,
Hmm.
and I got a transaction coordinator, and I had a
Yep.
coach right away. So
Okay.
within 9 months, I invested back in my business a substantial portion of money.
Wow.
Secondly, the other thing I did, which I got some flack from a colleague, which is why I mentioned it on this particular idea. Within that first 9 months, I had known a friend of mine that was a publisher for a home magazine.
Oh.
And we were having coffee, hanging out, and she said, Erica, I know you used to do your kind of marketing background. You're a great writer.
Hmm.
I've never tackled this topic. It wasn't paid writing. It was just like, hey,
Sure.
if you have time and you find it entertaining,
Yeah.
if you want to write an article for me. And I said, sure, I'll write an article for your magazine, home magazine. At the minimum, it'll be something I can do.
Yep.
And I had a lot that I knew about the area I could offer. I'd love doing the research. So I wrote a first article. And a colleague in my office looked at me who I was newer than him at the time, and he looked at me and goes, "Why you?" And I said,
Like,
"Why not?" And
oh my
I kind of
God.
laughed at him. And then here's what made it even better, Greg. I went back to her, the first article, and I said, "You know what? As I'm working on this, I think it's incomplete. It
Hmm.
needs to be a series. There's just too much to unpack here." So I started writing for this magazine quarterly for 3 years.
Wow.
And immediately then gained credibility with clients, had a wealth of knowledge that I could equip myself with,
Yeah.
where we couldn't just AI write things. Like I had to
Right.
do the research. I interviewed one of our largest developers in the community. I
Hmm.
interviewed the guy that, had written for the food, retired as the food critic for 30 years. He knew all about the market. And
Wow.
when I take clients out today, I have so many nuggets of bits of information I love to collect and
Hmm.
offer, but it came from that experience. But also on paper, my website immediately had quality content. And I thought, wow.
Powerful.
And since then, because I did that, just because I was like, well, why not? Like I know how to write. Like let's do something.
Hmm.
I connected with a news anchor as a result
Okay.
of one of them, and now I get interviewed for the news. I mean, it's just like it builds on itself. Like the
Hmm.
idea of why not, and what do I know how to do that I can offer and bring to my this industry or whatever I'm doing and wanting to achieve. And it really created a huge opportunity. It was a door opener in
Yeah.
many respects for me.
But I love that you'd mentioned that, Erica, because so many people are looking at what's the best structure and how do you kind of start your career and work your way through the process. And it's through hard work, consistency, determination, all the different things that people like to throw out. But giving the detail is you had a prior relationship that you maintained and had conversation with, and you also had knowledge base to serve the need of that particular opportunity. You
Right,
could have said no to it, or you couldn't have been prepared for it, and it would have been offered to you in the first place. So there's lots of things that you did before that opportunity came into place, and then when it did, you decided to seize it, and
right,
regardless of what was happening. right? I wasn't compensated anything that way. And to your point, everything that we do, it doesn't have to be these massive grand activities. It's these little things throughout periodic every single day, week, month, year that compound. And that's what you're talking about here is doing the activities that are going to bring you to the place that you want to do, providing value and knowledge. It's a beautiful thing. So take us through that. So early on in your career, you mentioned bringing on incredible talent to guide you, which most people they're nervous about investing that way, but all of us know that that is the number one investment is in
Right.
ourselves.
Mhm.
So what inspired you to do that in the first place? And then let's kind of move down the line in your career path as well.
I think the thing I felt at that time was that I could understand a real estate transaction, having
Mhm.
bought and sold my, and not everybody does that. Not everybody had bought and sold as much. I just that was a thing.
Sure,
Just
sure.
well, I like to buy my 1 year, my 1 8 year period. I think my husband and I had bought on and off like 9 properties. So it was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
yeah, we had a fairly good track record. When they asked me to go to a closing during my initial training in a real estate office, I was like, you really want me to go to a closing? Like, so
Yeah.
not everybody comes from that base, but
Sure.
I knew that. But what I didn't know was which things to spend my time doing
Mm,
first.
got it.
And the two things that I got from the coach that were, I think, critical
Mhm.
was for one, I had to authentically do some things that were right for me. So even writing the articles, for example, was something I could offer that I felt qualified and interested in.
Mhm.
I was zero qualified and interested in being a social media guru.
Right.
Still am to this day, do not care. Um, I will be on it a
Yep.
little bit just to
Yep.
know that I exist, but that's pretty much it. I'm not going to be, your superstar on YouTube.
Here she is,
But
everybody. Here she is right here.
this is
Everywhere.
all you get, trust me.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. And then the other thing was how to articulate my value differently.
Mm,
Because again, I understood a real estate transaction. I understood pricing real estate, to be honest. I mean, that
mhm.
early on, I had a very strong understanding of it and then data background from finance. But
Yeah.
how do I communicate that where I can sound different to a prospect?
Mm,
And that coach helped kind of funnel the
mhm.
ideas that I had about myself, the ideas I had about my business, and come up with a way that I could articulate it. And having had
Mm,
that marketing background, I thought, this is important because
yeah.
if I don't do this right from the get-go, the rest of it will it will not be consistent. It won't be
Mhm.
building in nature. It will
Yeah.
be that I'm coming to correct something later, and I
Mm.
didn't want to correct it after the fact. I wanted the reputation and the experience to be consistent with the message.
Wow. So, and crucially important from a marketing perspective, and there's so many marketing nerds that tune into this as well, and they'll get a kick out of it. Really understanding, setting the foundation for that message and being consistent physically and digitally is crucially
Right.
important. And to your
Exactly.
point, you're setting that tone. It's just like when you're speaking with a buyer or a seller and really setting the expectations up front and communication and all the things that are going to be done. Some of the most important things are unspoken. And it's just the
Yes.
way that we show up every single
Right.
day. And it puts people at ease. It continues to build trust. It's just one of those things where they see your face or they see your brand in and of itself, and they know exactly what it represents. And when they're
Right.
ready, willing, and able to transact or refer, you were there. And so
Yeah.
I love the fact that you identified that way, or like not surprised with your background. I mean, that makes perfect sense. Most real estate professionals don't have that, so it's tough. It's tough for them, you know?
Well, and if you don't, I mean, or if you don't have the money to invest in it, I mean, the best thing I always suggest to others is go somewhere else and ask them.
Hmm.
Ask someone else that knows you well or that has dealt with you in another business capacity what they see in you that is of value to someone else in any kind of, relationship-based, trust-based business. And when I even did this externally, I was surprised with one of the words that were used for me. I would never have used that word. Not that it was good or bad. It wasn't. It was good. But
Sure.
I said, that's not even how I classify myself. So it was better that I knew that than operated as if I was trying to create the dialogue. It is not something that you can just contrive for yourself. It
Mm.
has to be organic. And sometimes you're not the best person to, speak to it because
Right.
it's interior, it's in here, but it's not who you are out here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, sometimes you're a little too close to the subject matter in and of itself
right.
to look at it from an outward eye. And we all look at ourselves a certain way, but what we see and perceive is not necessarily what the outside eye or mind does. So it's important to be in tune, take the time. I love this. I mean, this is massively important into that realm, Erica. But I want to go down the line here. So early on in your career, you're doing those things. Let me ask you about brokerage, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So Keller Williams, was it Keller Williams from day one? Was there movement through your career that
Just
way?
once.
Okay.
Just once. I started with Coldwell Banker.
Okay.
We had an office here. I had a bunch of people I knew from the marketing years that were there.
Yeah.
So that was an easy pick. I
Sure.
said I wanted a national company, I
Mhm.
wanted a large company to be
Sure.
affiliated with. I think there's an element to it, which intellectual capital and experience and being able to network, that's valuable. So that
Yeah.
was something I valued. Not everybody has the same values in who they choose for their firm.
Sure.
That mattered to me. I moved to Cal. I interviewed a couple of years in. I
Mhm.
interviewed a bunch of others, and felt that the Keller company was the best for me.
Mhm.
They have a very strong entrepreneurial focus.
Okay.
I tended, as a whole, I
Mhm.
tended to want to like chart my own course, and I
Okay.
think that under the umbrella of some of the other large companies, that wasn't as encouraged as much.
Mhm.
And so that was very attractive to me while still maintaining a large a presence,
Wow.
a company with presence. And now I operate, under them, and I try to explain to clients, I'm like, I'm just kind of like a franchise, so to speak, of my own,
Yeah.
because I do what I want to do, how I want to do it, how I want to serve, have the
Mhm.
people that with me alongside that matter to me.
Mhm.
So, but I have the backing of a great big company. So I think it's wonderful.
I love that, and why I always mention it is I think so many professionals who tune into this, they're wanting to kind of understand how the Titans are making their decisions, and where they go speaks, right?
Yes,
So it's kind of what we say we're going to do versus what we actually walk to do, and
right.
that's kind of where it comes down to it. And we've been very fortunate to have some incredible Keller Williams professionals on the show over the years. I mean, an amazing organization. And it's just one of those things that, as you mentioned, there isn't a one size fits all for anybody. Everybody's got a different path. And I think identifying what matters most for you and for your goals and your clients, and then finding the best fit that allows you to reach and meet or exceed those, and
Yeah.
that's what really matters at the end of the day. And correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, but you're in this every single day. The consumer relationship dynamic is with you and your team.
Yes.
Whether it is ABC or XYZ over the door, ultimately they love, trust, and respect you and what you've done. So to me, I think that's the most important brand.
Yes.
And guilty by association, who we align with matters, right? So it's great that you have a great personal brand and reputation, and you're with Keller Williams, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So all the different things line up that way, and that does matter. But so with that, Sizemore residential, what's the future look like? Where are you headed, Erica? I mean, there's so much happening. So where are you going?
Um, I never set out to have a big team. That wasn't to have the relationships with the clients, and that fills me up. Like the
Mm,
serving of them fills me up,
yeah.
fills my bucket. So structure wasn't triangular in my mind as far as growth was concerned.
Mhm.
And operating as an individual also didn't seem very attractive as I was growing because, well, for one, it's one of the few industries where we're supposed to be a CEO, a COO, a CTO, a CMO, all at the same time, and everyone loved doing paperwork.
Oh.
So I knew that wasn't, the right path.
Mhm.
Leverage is critical.
Mm,
So partnership and or some version of, a small, knit boutique kind of feel was very
mhm.
much what I was hoping my clients to experience,
Wow.
where they had a really, really strong support structure no matter what was going on.
Okay.
And so, I think that for me, it's just continuing to make that better,
Mm,
streamline it, and to the mutual friend that we know.
Yes.
I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to maybe not letting go of some things.
Sure.
So to try to maintain those and
Mm.
elevate them at the same time requires this leverage. It requires growth with scale that can be servicing in nature, and the only way to do that is with people.
Mm.
So we have, under the umbrella that's, so to speak, Sizemore Residential.
Yeah.
It's myself and I think for most people in the industry, you'd call them a director of operations, a transaction coordinator,
Mm.
an executive assistant, a showing assistant. I mean, that's pretty much the structure. And
Wow.
honestly, wherever we go from here, that can elevate all of them
Mm.
further, personally and professionally, financially. It means that's what I want. And the clients to not have ever at all feel like the scale has gotten to a point where I'm not there and wanting to be there when they see a house. Like
Mhm.
that's just not of interest to me. I'm everybody has their own formula just like they have their own firm,
Mhm.
what they want, and that's always been of importance. So that's where we're kind of keep on going, and I think they're growing into efficiencies and using AI where it's meant to be used,
Mhm.
in the proper form of like discerning what data points you should be using. Like this morning I was using it to synthesize something I could easily have spreadsheeted. I know how
Sure.
to do it, but I wanted to list a tax to list final sale ratio for a client.
Mm.
And I just put the information I knew that it needed in there so it could quickly calculate it for me. So,
Perfect.
hey, that saved me 10 minutes,
Mhm.
So scale is critical. But right
Mm.
now, we're just in a wonderful upswing of that client experience, brand awareness
Wow.
that's starting to um, kind of be exponential. We're at a point where after 7 years, there's no lead sources, there's
Mm.
no
Oh,
paid advertising. It's just referrals and the network I have with other colleagues that we have mutual respect in one another.
wow. And Erica, you're proof that building things a very specific way, curated to your goals and what you're looking for, can be done, and it can be done in a big way, right? So people think that you have to have every shiny object or whatever's
Yeah,
new going on, and to me, it's distractions. It's taking you off, your eye on the ball, which is the most important thing. Is you mentioned client experience and what's happening there, and it is a
yeah,
quality over quantity. It's not to say that you can't do more volume
sure.
through leverage and systems. But I think this is a beautiful example of that, Erica. So tying into that, because people tune in to this series because they also want to continually learn from the best and the brightest. You've already shared a ton of info already. Again, bringing on the right people, systems, coaching and or training early on, and then doing the right activities that move the needle. But if you could kind of look back at your career thus far and identify, one or two things that you added or implemented into your business where you really saw growth, you saw positive movement in the direction you were looking to go.
Right.
Uh, I guess any advice that you would give anybody tuning in here from any aspect?
From any aspect at all.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
Then I'll flip the switch and say that
Okay.
this is very contrary to most of my experiences with clients, and
Yep.
that usually I'm the one asking the questions. And so rather, I love to talk, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Everybody does like to hear themselves.
For sure.
But I think the one thing that helped the entirety of this experience for me professionally in this industry,
Mm.
and I'm sure it's true for many, many others, anyone else listening, is just asking more and the right questions and
Ooh.
being a good listener. Because when I have to listen and help someone in any capacity, and I'm going straight back to like financial,
Yeah.
you're thinking through different data points that if you get wrong, you get it wrong.
Yeah.
You're thinking through different pain points that they have, that if you don't address them, you're not getting the sale or you're not getting the experience that they
Hmm.
want because you haven't heard them. It's being sometimes uncomfortable asking questions when you know they need to be asked, or conversations that you know that need to be had.
Wow.
And that in and of itself, I attribute to the close to probably the 80% of my success. With you throw in the leverage, you throw in, good training, you throw in all these other things, but without the capacity to do that well, I could not serve at the level and at the point where I'm doing today. And that's something that everybody listening can be trained on.
Wow.
That is not, I just happen to know people with a lot of money, or I just, say, oh, I want to break into real estate, and you pretend like you know everything about luxury. That's not the point. It's asking the right questions. You can say, well, I want to sell X number of houses,
Mhm.
and then you're trying to buy more leads. But that doesn't help you either, maybe, because you have to convert them, right? It sounds great on paper until you get the phone call or you get the meeting, and then you're looking at each other and you're talking about things that they don't really even they don't care. Like, it's four walls and four bedrooms. Like, that's just okay. I mean, we all need the four walls and a roof. What
Right.
else is there, right?
Mm,
So just thinking through the lifestyle, the experience, and
mm,
sort of what someone needs, and listening really well
mm.
is, I mean, that's not only great on capturing client, that's incredible on negotiations. And without that, we wouldn't have the close ratio we have. And I don't say close ratio in the clients, I am thinking close ratio in the sales.
Right.
How do you navigate those difficult conversations? And if you put it on one thing, Greg, that's what I'm going to put it on. And
Wow.
we had a meeting a couple weeks ago, some training, that we had a panel,
Mhm.
and my friend laughed at me because they said at the end of the panel, they said, "What's one word for the audience today?" I was the last one, and they were going to
Mhm.
have these dynamic comments, and it was
Sure.
it was passion, and it was this, and it was that, and I said patience.
Oh,
And
wow.
my girlfriend laughs at me and she says, "You said patience." And I said, "Yes, because sometimes it's just waiting long enough to speak,
Mm,
or waiting long enough to hear what you need to hear, or waiting long enough that someone else has a chance to process
mhm.
what you're saying to them." And that communication skill is something everybody today on this listening and can develop with some, time and attention and practice. And so that's what I'll share for that.
That is some of the best advice that we've been given in the entirety of the series. And
Oh
and
gosh.
and why I say that is because so many, and this is no disrespect to anybody who's been on the show, incredible people. There you hear a lot of the same thing. And there's patterns with success and
Sure.
higher, individuals that are really driving, the directive. But the fact of the matter is that you bring it down to something that is so, I want to say, overlooked
Yeah.
in the mind of most people. They would almost assume that that's commonality, but
Right. It's not.
commonality or common sense really isn't that common. It's just
No.
not. So the fact of the matter is that you're emphasizing understanding the people that we're communicating with, really being there for them with attentive ears to listen
Yes.
and waiting to help guide them best by not just rushing through and saying your expertise and your knowledge because you've done it 1,000 times and
Right.
they've only done this 3 times in their life. That goes across the board, not just for business. That's personal relationships.
Right.
Think
That's
about your
right.
kids or your spouse or like all the things. Like, listen, just
Yeah.
be present. Listen. I mean, it's changing people's lives. The ones that really understand what you said, and the ones that listened, as you're saying, Erica, they really have exponential growth and path. And the ones that think they know it all, they're too rushed onto the next one. They're thinking about a million things. Hurry, hurry, hurry. And it's that patience. Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a virtue. It's not for everybody, but it is
I
a
have
virtue.
ADHD too. Okay. Look, I mean, I think you have to a little bit. But
Yes.
it is the most amazing tool in what we're doing. And because the process of this industry and what someone's doing when they're working with us is so critical to them. It is so stressful, it's anxiety ridden, and being heard can just change the outcome meaningfully. And I took a little nod from my prior work life when I start in a lot of meetings anyway. And one of the comments was told to me years ago in finance: ask someone what their first experience of money was, and it will tell you a lot about them. They'll explain it. They have a very deep, visceral response to whatever that memory is, right? Like mine was I got an ATM card earlier than anyone else had it, and I had to keep track of all my numbers. And you think that my engineer father didn't help build this like crazy data driven, like spreadsheet loving
Awesome.
girl here. But instead I flipped it into real estate. And when I meet with clients for the first time, a lot of times I ask them what their last or first experience with their real estate sale looked like, if they've ever bought or sold before.
Wow.
That immediately tells you whether it was good, bad, what was bad about it, what they wanted to do differently, as long as you listen.
Hmm.
And that's even before you talk about what they want to buy or sell.
Yeah.
What was your last experience like? Tell me about it.
Hmm.
And that in and of itself opens up wonderful conversations where you can add your expertise in by way of helping to understand what their problem is.
Hmm.
Because without understanding their problem, you're not really doing anything for them. It doesn't, there's 100 people that can come through their door,
Hmm.
but they really want to know how you'll impact their particular problem.
Right.
It's not just about a buy or a sell.
Hmm.
So,
Wow. And so many people fall into that category of just listing off the things that they can do or they're proficient at or what they know
yeah,
before they even understand what the goal is, what the end
right.
result is the person we're speaking to is looking for. And so many sales professionals and entrepreneurs have stepped on their own foot, right? And they've made many mistakes through communication. And I feel that understanding that, being patient, communicative, and really paying attention to the details matters, and showing up in the way that our clients need, right? And not the way that we perceive what they need or the way that we feel is best suited for them, but how they really interpret it.
Yeah.
Erica, this is beautiful information. I mean, I know you and I could go on and on for
Of
the episode.
course.
There's no doubt. And there's so many nuggets. I just want to leave it with this, though. Is there anything else that you want to leave the audience with? Any thought, anything before we close this one out today?
I'll just say on the same note of communication is I'm still growing in it too. And so there's an opportunity to, practice on friends just in communication, over coffee. Um, and when you listen, you'll hear a pain point that you can serve a need that makes for raving fans. And so that I would just say, every time that we can help others, we get a wonderful opportunity and window into who they are. And so if you're listening and you want to like breathe into those people that are your clients, that's just a wonderful thing that I want to just leave with. I'm so grateful for everybody that's done the same for me. So that's just something that I think as a culture, we could all do a lot better.
Oh,
So
100%. Erica, this is amazing. And again, I know that there's so many people in the audience that have tuned in that have gotten so much. I would encourage everybody, if anything stands out to you, if anything's pulling at the heartstrings or the mind strings, and you want to learn more, reach out to Erica. I mean,
love
follow
it.
her on all social media platforms, all the different. We'll have links in the show notes. Please send and show her some love, as always, for her taking the time to just being here and sharing her story and knowledge with everybody else. And I know that was just a fraction, but at least we got some of it, Erica. So thank you again
Thank
for
you.
taking the time and jumping on today. It means a
Love
lot.
the opportunity. Thank you, Greg. So appreciate it.
This is awesome. And again, everybody, thank you as always for your time and attention, your love and support. If you like what we're doing with Real Estate Titans, don't forget to like, subscribe, all the things. I have to say it. The algorithm needs me to say it. I do want to give our sponsor a quick shout out, Lion Bolt Media. If you are a real estate professional looking to grow and scale your real estate business with leading edge digital marketing, visit lionboltmedia.com for more information. Now, we're live here every Tuesday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location. Catch everybody on the next episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care. Thanks, Erica.
Thank you.
Bye.